Hi everybody, it's Annie from Polar Explorers, and today is day 4 of my top 5 Arctic exploration book reviews. So far we've talked about 3 amazing books, The Arctic Rail, Two Against the Ice, and there's actually 2 books called Two Against the Ice, both of them about Arctic exploration, and also The Oddest Place on Earth. And today's book is about an expedition that has to rank pretty close to the top of the strangest expeditions in Arctic history. And I don't say that lightly because the history of Arctic exploration is just filled with crazy things going on expeditions that are immoral and illegal and just all sorts of craziness. And so to say that one is kind of towards the top of all the craziness, that's saying something. And this book is called Weird and Tragic Shores. It's by Chauncey Loomis, and it's about the expeditions of Charles Francis Hall. Now, Charles Francis Hall is a really fascinating guy. He was just an average guy. Unlike some people we've talked about recently, he wasn't born an explorer, just your average Joe. He was a publisher, and he was alive when there was a lot of Arctic stuff going on. There was the Franklin ships that had gone missing and everybody was out searching for them, and Elijah Kent Kane had gone up and come back as an American hero, and he really looked up to Elijah Kent Kane and wanted to be more like him, wanted to have that lifestyle. So he basically gave up his life as a publisher and decided to become an Arctic explorer. And he went up and he lived on Baffin Island for a little while. He befriended an Inuit couple who were lifelong friends to him, and learned to live like an Inuit to a certain extent, which is something that a lot of people who were exploring in the Arctic weren't doing then, which is pretty cool. But it's his third expedition that is the centerpiece of this story. And on his third expedition, things weren't going well for him. His lack of any scientific background, his lack of any discipline or military background in terms of being a commander of an expedition were really kind of coming to haunt him. He didn't have the tools that a lot of other expedition leaders had. And he chose a somewhat motley crew. The scientists did not get along with the other people on the expedition. There was a lot of mistrust, and it boils down to some bad things going on. And I'd love to tell you about them, but I can't because it'll ruin it. And it's so tempting just to tell you a little bit more, but you just have to read the book. I will say that reading about Charles Hall is really fun because he was a super enthusiastic guy. He left these diaries that were really detailed, and they're filled with prose that are underlined 3 times and words in all caps with a lot of exclamation points. Just very enthusiastic and fun to read about. One other thing that's pretty cool about this book is that right when you think the book has hit its peak and that's the whole story, in my opinion, that's when the exciting part of the story actually starts. And one of the characters in the story is a woman, an Inuit woman, the wife of the couple that he had befriended, and she ends up being the glue that really holds this expedition together in the end. And that's a common thread in Arctic history that doesn't get written about very much. The role of women and how oftentimes it's the women who are doing the hard work and the women who are really the glue that's holding it all together. And we see this in other stories. We see it in, for instance, Stephenson's expedition, Ada Blackjack, who was the only survivor of a terrible expedition on Wrangel Island. We see it in the expedition of Knud Rasmussen, his 5th Thule expedition, where one of his companions, a woman, traveled with him over 20,000 miles. And over again, I mean, of course, there's not as many women in polar exploration as there are men, Arctic exploration, especially early. But there's more than you'd think, and their role is really significant. And one of the cool things is that There's a follow-up book to this. It's by a different author, and it's really just about this woman and the role she played on the expedition. And it's called Midnight to the North. Same expedition, same story, but it's really about her and how she got left out of the story when this crazy expedition happened, and when they came back and everybody was talking about it and saying, how did that happen? How could they have survived such a crazy time? And she got left out of the story. So here's a book just about her. But, so you need to go out, you need to get Weird and Tragic Shores. If you have already purchased the Arctic Grail and are halfway through it, which you probably are, you're gonna know that there's a chapter in the Arctic Grail about Charles Francis Hall, which is really good. But this book takes it to the whole new level. You get to read so much more, and it's so much more detailed. And when you finish this book, then you can read even more by reading Midnight to the North. So Weird and Tragic Shores, Midnight to the North. I'm in trouble because I have only one night left, and I have got a whole stack of books that I'm trying to figure out what I could possibly choose as the last one. So I'm in a real pickle, and I've got some thinking to do before tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to having our last chat about my fifth most favorite Arctic exploration book. So check back again tomorrow. I hope everybody's doing really well, taking care of themselves, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.